I'm the Central Wisconsin Tobacco-Free Coalition Coordinator. So I work on tobacco-related issues, do a lot of these presentations for Marathon, Portage, and Wood counties. We have a tri-county region. And so I think with that, we'll get started. So Wisconsin, about 5 years ago, passed the statewide smoke-free air law, and we've had a lot of success in driving down our smoking rates. The youth smoking rate right now is 13%, one of the lowest rates we've seen, and then the adult smoking rate is 18%. But this doesn't mean that the tobacco industry is going away. The tobacco industry is still here in Wisconsin, and they're making new products to attract a new market. These new products are called other tobacco products, and they include everything except for cigarettes. So tobacco products that include chewing and spit tobacco, snus, which I have some of these things up here. I'll leave them up here, and then after you can come up and take a look at them if you want to see what they look like. Snus is a chewing tobacco that's in a pouch. It's placed between the cheek and the gum, and it's used like a spit tobacco, except for the user doesn't have to spit, so it's a little bit more discreet. Dissolvable tobacco, which is a new thing. They actually aren't sold here in Wisconsin yet. They're still being test marketed in other states, but they actually do dissolve. So the user puts them in the mouth, and then they do dissolve in the mouth. Then cigars and cigarillos, and I have all sorts of different ones up here in these bright packaging. You can see little cigars. These products are a safer alternative to smoking, and they do still have some of the same risks that cigarettes have, and so heart disease, cancer, and other health issues. What's the problem? I'm sure with some of the packages I just showed you, what do you notice? They're pretty, they're bright, they come in cool flavors. So tobacco companies are putting a lot of money into creating and marketing these new products, and that's a problem because of their packaging, the shapes, and the flavors that they make them. So these other tobacco products have appealing packaging, candy flavored, and they're cheaper, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So these products are appealing and easily accessible. So if you look at this picture right here, you'll notice, if you can see it, there's some candy on the left, and then there's a display of other tobacco products on the right. In the state of Wisconsin, these things do not have to be behind the counter by law. So they can be, oftentimes you might see them on the counter when you're checking out at a gas station. You might see the tobacco products there next to candy, mint, and gum. You might see them on the sales floor as well, next to the candy, mint, and the gum. Why do you think that they're putting these things next to the candy products? You can shout it out. Kids, exactly. So, to get a younger market excited about these products, interested in these products, and when I was little, they had candy cigarettes. I know that they still have them out there. They're hard to find, but we used to pretend we were smoking. Candy sticks now, okay. But you still pretend that you're smoking, and so, tobacco companies are trying to get a new market interested in their products, addicted to their products. These products come in candy flavors, all sorts of candy flavors. I think some of the ones I have up here are strawberry, grape, I have a tropical fusion, blueberry, all sorts of different products. In 2009, the FDA did implement a law that restricted flavoring cigarettes. These products were not included in there, so these legally can have the flavors in them. These products are also cheaper than cigarettes. If we look at this picture up here, you'll see a pack of 20 cigarettes and a pack of 20 little cigars. They're virtually the same thing, except for the little cigar is a little bit longer and it has a brown paper wrapping. This brown paper wrapping qualifies these products as an other tobacco product, which means that they fall into two different tax classifications, And so our cigarette tax in the state of Wisconsin, we've done really well, and it's one of the reasons why our smoking rates have decreased so low. Our tax on top of the price of the product is $2.52 a pack. These other products, however, are taxed at a much lower rate, about 78 cents, which means that they're cheaper and more people can buy them and they're easily accessible. The reason that I did come to talk to you today is about e-cigarettes. This is another new product that is out on the market, and there's a lot of questions about them. If you look up here, I do have some things with me that are e-cigarettes, but you might think of an e-cigarette as being this top picture right here. It looks like a traditional cigarette, except for it's a battery operated. These were the first models that really came out. But if you look at this bottom picture here, is something called a vape pen, and this is really what e-cigarettes are starting to look like. Kind of looks like a wand, but this is the most common. I do have some that are disposable, and they just look like little pens. And you can come up and look at them closer if you'd like. But e-cigarettes are devices that allow users to inhale an aerosol containing nicotine and other substances. They're generally battery operated, and they deliver, they use a vaporizer. So this is the battery right here, this colored part, and then this vaporizer is where the liquid, the nicotine liquid would go, and then a mouthpiece is which is where you would inhale out of. So the battery heats the liquid, turns it into this aerosol, and the user inhales it. E-cigarette is just a term to reference an array of products. So you might hear young people or people who use these things calling them different things. It virtually means they all mean the same thing. So we have e-cigarettes, e-cigars, e-pipes, hookah pens, which is what a lot of the youth are calling them. And when they talk about them, they're talking about these, but they're also talking about these disposable ones as well. Vape pens, which is what this is referenced as, and then e-hookahs. So this e-juice, a lot of times we get questions about, well, what actually is in the e-juice? What is it? E-juice is what's put into the e-cigarette. I do have a couple of different bottles here. And it comes in many flavors. You'll see this back wall. We actually took this picture in an establishment in Marathon County. You can see that they have lots of different flavors, lots of different types, lots of different bottles. This bottle right here, I do have one here. If you looked at the ingredients, which you can't probably read, but it's a lot of foodstuffs, things that are found in our food. And so if you're looking at the ingredients that are listed, it looks safe, it looks risk-free. Nicotine is listed on there, but right now these things are unregulated, so they don't actually have to put the ingredients on the bottle. So this one that I have right here doesn't have any ingredients on it whatsoever, because there are no rules or regulations applied to them at this point. They don't all have to put the ingredients on there. The nicotine juices range for amount of nicotine. They range anywhere from 0 all the way up to 36 milligrams, with 36 milligrams being the highest. The important thing to point out here is that because, again, they are not regulated by anybody, the nicotine levels that are listed on the bottle could be more, could be less. There are discrepancies in the nicotine levels, which is really important when we think about youth saying, well, I use one that says it doesn't contain nicotine, because they have done studies on these and they have found that there are still traces of nicotine in there, which is the addictive substance. So even though people who are using the non-nicotine containing products might think that they're not getting any nicotine, they might still actually be getting nicotine. So the top 5 reasons to be concerned about e-cigarettes. I did give you a handout, and all of these different things are found on there. The first reason is, if we look at all these pictures, again, bright, colorful packaging, flavors that youth like. We have like cinnamon bun up there. We have cotton candy, new alcohol flavors that have recently come out, and then also like an Oreo cookie one down here. I have banana cream pie, and if you want to come and check it out, you can. It actually smells just like what the bottle says it is. So these things are very attractive to youth because of the flavors. If you talk to people who use them, they say, well, it tastes just like what it says it is. It tastes good. Unlike conventional cigarettes, e-cigarettes are regularly advertised on TV and often come in a variety of candy flavors. So the marketing, they can market these things any place right now at this point. They can put them in places, like People Magazine. They can put them on TV. I'm sure you've heard ads that are on the radio. With cigarettes, marketing is really restricted, and so youth aren't seeing a lot of that marketing. So they're really glamorized at this point. And in 2014, the National Youth Tobacco Survey reports that the number of youth using e-cigarettes tripled in 2013 and 2014. I know Marshfield and Wood County just finished doing their youth risk behavior survey, and Marshfield specifically, their high schools, they did include a question about how many youth have used vapor products in the last 30 days, and it was about 24%. So if we think about the smoking rates are going down, we're at like 13%. The e-cigarette rates and that youth report using them is about double that. So it's kind of concerning because they are still getting addicted to the nicotine. So nicotine is the primary ingredient used in most cigarettes, e-cigarettes. And again, just because they are labeled as not containing nicotine, there still could be nicotine found in there. But when you talk to youth, and I've talked with youth who are using these that say, well, I'm not using one that has nicotine in it, they really believe that, you know, there isn't nicotine in there. But until these products are regulated, it's going to be really hard to say whether or not they do have nicotine in them. Wisconsin law does state that youth cannot purchase a nicotine-containing product. So the ones that say that they have nicotine in them, they cannot purchase them. So these all that I have do have nicotine in them, but these pens right here do not. So it's not defined in the law that they cannot buy these things. So right now, legally in Wisconsin, if a shop allows, a minor under the age of 18 could purchase a non-nicotine containing juice and or device if it does not have nicotine in it. So, which is really concerning because they can get their hands on them. These products are not approved for cessation. This is one of the biggest things that we hear. There we go, I was missing a picture. I was like, there's a hole there. A lot of times I'll be out in the community and people will say, hey, I'm working on stepping down with these products, or I have quit. And we say, great, I'm really glad that it worked for you. But at this time, these products have not been proven to be any more effective than already existing medications like the nicotine patches, lozenges, and gum. They are not an approved cessation method at this point. We're not saying that it might not happen in the future. We don't exactly know. But if you look at these ads and you look at why they're making these products, they're not being marketed as a way to quit. They're being marketed as a way to switch. So switch from cigarettes, which we know do so much harm, and we know that we have all the research on it, to something that we don't know that much about. At this point, we don't have long-term health studies. We don't exactly know the long-term health effects of these products. We do know that there are some short-term things coming out, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So again, they're not approved for cessation at this point. And what we know works for cessation is using a nicotine replacement therapy in conjunction with counseling. Quitting smoking, if anybody in here has ever done it, it's really hard. It's probably one of the hardest things that people can do. And oftentimes it takes many attempts to successfully quit. And in Wisconsin, we do have a free resource. People can use the Wisconsin Quit line. They can call 1-800-QUIT-NOW, and they'll set them up with a quit plan. There's free counseling available 24/7, and also free medications to help them quit if needed. These things have not been proven to be safe. If we look at these ads, they're being marketed as a less risky or risk-free option. The first one, it says no toxic chemicals, no tar or yellowing of the teeth, no smelly clothes, you can smoke them anywhere. This ad down here says love your lungs. So it's really hitting home that, these things aren't cigarettes, and so they're trying to make them seem less risky. But again, they're not regulated, and they haven't been proven to be safe at this point. They're not regulated by the FDA. The FDA is working on this. They have put forth some regulations, but this process takes time, and so they haven't been applied to these products yet. And 90% of these products are manufactured in China at this point, and there's no way for consumers or bystanders to know what they are being exposed to. Studies have shown that the use of e-cigarettes can cause short-term lung changes and irritations. And non-users, people who are around people who are using them, are exposed to the same harmful chemicals as the users. Another concern that I always hear is it's just water vapor, but what we know is that 10 chemicals have been identified in e-cigarettes that are known carcinogens, so things that cause cancer. They're found in both the mainstream and the side stream e-cigarette aerosols, so they're found when somebody's inhaling the aerosol themselves or when they're blowing it out. Again, there aren't any restrictions on the ingredients, so there's no way to look at there's no way to regulate what's being emitted from these products. In a recent study, 2 recent studies came out before the beginning of this year. The first one referenced formaldehyde, and it talked about how some of these devices, when they're heating them at the e-juice at the highest setting, actually gives off more formaldehyde than traditional cigarettes. And the other one talked about diacetyl, and so they tested these flavored e-juices, so the ones that are flavored, and they found that a majority of them had the diacetyl in there, which is it's known to cause lung disease. And if you look at this picture, can you see it? people always ask, well, can you notice the cloud of vapor? And it's interesting because it actually, some of them give off more vapor, aerosol, give this cloudy, smoky look than traditional cigarettes do. And so this picture kind of shows what it looks like. And have any of you seen anybody using these before? And it looks different, and you still can smell them sometimes, like smell the flavor that it is too. This nicotine juice is toxic. So the American Association of Poison Control Centers, this is from them, and they had 3,831 exposures in 2014 to this nicotine juice. You'll see that the number of calls has greatly increased, and obviously that's because these products are becoming more popular. People have them more often. But this is really important because nicotine juice is toxic. It is poisonous to somebody who ingests it, gets it on their skin, it goes through your skin. And what nicotine poisoning would look like is uncontrollable vomiting, seizures, headaches, dizziness, and it can even be fatal. Just before that, in December of 2014, there was a child death from the ingestion of liquid nicotine, and it was a toddler, 18 months of age, that ingested less than a teaspoon of this nicotine juice. If you think about it, this stuff is highly concentrated. This bottle right here is equivalent to about 7 packs of cigarettes worth of nicotine, so it doesn't take very much to harm somebody. So e-cigarettes undermine clean indoor air laws. If we look at the marketing, there's this other marketing, they're marketing being less risky, and they're also marketing them as, taking back your freedom, taking back your right to use these things indoors. As of right now, e-cigarettes can be used any place where they're not included in policies. So if they're not included in the smoke-free ordinance that's local, or like a workplace policy, people can use these virtually anywhere, which is an issue. About 5 years ago, we determined that we wanted clean indoor air, and I'm sure that everybody in here probably enjoys it very much. We know that 90% of people do. But these things can be used indoors, and it makes enforcement confusing. We've had it happen where somebody will be using an e-cigarette, and they were in an establishment, and then somebody down the way lit up a traditional cigarette because they weren't from Wisconsin and they didn't know our laws, and so it really makes it confusing, and it also renormalizes this act of smoking. And so when we think about youth out in our community, seeing people using these things, if they're using them indoors, there's this perception of the risk that goes down. They don't think that they're that bad for them, and kids know that smoking cigarettes is bad for them. They know that. They know the health risks from them, and people don't use them out in public anymore, and so they're not used to seeing that. But if they're seeing it out in their environment, they're more likely to try that. We do have communities across Wisconsin that are taking it upon themselves to protect their citizens. So you'll see that on this map, the stars indicated there where there is a policy. Most of these policies only cover the city or the county buildings. A lot of counties and cities have included them into their policies, so it covers their city and county grounds. But 4 cities, Onalaska, Ashwaubenon, Greenfield, and Madison, have included e-cigarettes into their local smoke-free ordinance, so it covers the whole city. It covers restaurants, bars, public places where people go, which is really exciting that they're doing this because they're protecting the health of their community. So what can we do? Oh, I'm missing a picture again. So talking to our local and state leaders about what's going on with these things, letting them know that, we don't know exactly what's the harmful effects of these e-cigarettes. The research is coming out. We don't know the long-term effects, and we can't wait. We waited for smoking, and we saw what it did to people. Also, looking at, should we or should we not add e-cigarettes into our local ordinances? Should we just take the first step to do this because we've already determined that we want clean indoor air here in Wisconsin? Also educating others. A lot of these products and a lot of the information that I gave you today, a lot of people don't know, and there's always a lot of questions about e-cigarettes. And the handout that you have, I do have some extras if you'd like to take some with you, just to pass them out to people in your community. Really, a lot of our youth, they really believe that these products are risk-free, that they're not harmful, and there are adults that feel that way as well. We do have a coalition, and we do meet in Stevens Point, and we are really busy doing a lot of educational presentations. If you have ideas on where we should go for a presentation, if you want to get hooked up with our coalition and join the efforts that we are doing locally, I do have some contact information and I can contact you. And then also media stories are a really good way to get this information out. So if you're interested in writing letters to the editor, being interviewed on what you think about these products or what you're seeing in your community, it really is impactful. This is my contact information. Do you have any questions at all? I know I went kind of fast, but I was trying to be conscious of your time. Any questions at all? Thoughts?
What do e-cigarettes cost?
What do they cost? Yeah, so this e-cigarette right here, this little vaping pen, it's reusable, so the user can reuse it. This one ranges like anywhere from $20 to $25, the one that I bought. But again, it can be reused. And then this nicotine juice, this bottle of nicotine juice is about $9.99. Depending on what brand, it can go up more, it could be a little bit less. So they're a lot cheaper than e-cigarettes or than regular cigarettes, and there's not a tax applied to them, so there's no excise tax, that extra tax applied to them. It's just the sales tax that's applied to them, so they are cheaper. Other questions? Thoughts, comments? Quiet group. Normally I have a lot of questions. Okay. Excellent. Well, I think that's all I have for you. I guess if you have questions or if you want to get in contact with me, I do have a business card in the back. We do have a website, and it's centralwisconsintobaccofree.org, and we put a lot of information on there about what our FACT group is doing and some of our other initiatives as well. Okay. Well, thank you.
There's
Yeah.
cities that have ordinances. Are they looking to go statewide with that, or does it have to be by?
At this time, they're really looking at doing local policies. There have been efforts on the other side of this too, where they're trying to exempt e-cigarettes from the smoke-free ordinances on the other side. So right now, it's really in the local community's hands to include them if they wish, and that's what we're on track to do right now at this point. We did meet with the Wisconsin Rapids mayor, and we did educate the mayor and the city attorney and law enforcement on these products. And we're looking at what are our next steps with that. Who else do we need to educate? Really, just letting this education really gets it started, and people start asking questions and learning a little bit more. And we're learning right along with you. The research is starting to come out, and so we're compiling all of that and keeping track of that as well. There's a question back here.
Can those vape pens be used for anything other than the blocking liquids?
Yeah, I don't have that in this slide, but this is something that is very common. Actually at our high schools. So there is something called butane hash oil, or like a marijuana wax. And I don't know if some of you educators are shaking your head, I can see. But it's something that can be used in these things. So a lot of our drugs are on trend to become a liquid form. And this butane hash oil can be found in our area. It's not legal. It is a form of marijuana. It's highly concentrated, and people are putting it inside of these devices, and then it turns into like this vapor and they inhale it. It makes it hard to detect because it doesn't smell like marijuana would, not that skunky smell. I mean, you really know when somebody's using marijuana because it has a distinct smell, and the liquid form marijuana doesn't have the smell. And so people are using it, and there have been some youth that have been found using it as well. I know in Marathon County, we have a tobacco class, and they were using the e-cigarettes, and then they tested the e-cigarette and they found the traces of that butane hash oil in there. So it is something that we are seeing in our community. Good question. Any other questions, concerns? I know Wisconsin Rapids just got their first vape shop. I've went in there. If you're not familiar with what those are, it's kind of looks like a little bar, and then they have like all the different kinds of nicotine juices, different devices. You can try them. On the other side, I don't know if you read the article, but they are kind of doing like a vaping lounge. So that would be somewhere somebody could go buy their product and they can stay there and they can use them. And then they also are talking about doing a child's play area in there so that people don't have to leave their kids at home or like leave them in the car. So there aren't any restrictions on what they can do. I mean, you don't have to have a license to sell these products right now. So that's kind of what's going on. I encourage you to check, to go in and look. So I think that's how we learn the most, is to see what's in our community, is to check it out. We do environmental scans, which would be, we go into establishments that sell tobacco or alcohol, and we look at what does the marketing look like, where is it placed in the store, just to kind of see what's going on in our communities, and you can do the same thing as well. But
why do they call it juice? I mean, is that just one of those those marketing things too? Instead of
I think it's just the term for it. Yeah, the nicotine juice. I mean, it's a liquid. It's sweet. Yeah, and they aren't. These two that I have are in childproof containers. When they first started coming out, they weren't. So they're starting to do that, but the regulations, since there aren't any, they didn't have to put them in childproof containers, but they're starting to do that. So, yeah. Any other questions? Well, thank you for coming. Sorry.